beginning. Hi, I'm here with National League baseball player Billy Bean. How you doing, Billy?
Fine. Glad to be here.
Now, you actually played on a number of teams, didn't you?
Right. I played from 1987 to 1995, and I started with the Detroit Tigers, LA Dodgers, and San Diego Padres. Kind of a culmination, a few trips back and forth to the minor leagues, but spread over about 9 years.
Now you're really an advocate for the gay and lesbian community because you took that step and came out publicly as being a gay man. Thank you for doing that, for one, because it really helps people to realize what a gay person is, what they look like, and you reach an audience that some of us can't reach.
Well, it wasn't really a plan or thought out process of what would happen. And very fortunately, something positive has kind of grown from that, where I just decided to be honest for the first time. And I really think that honesty is probably, as a fundamental foundation for your life, you can't really start in a better place. And, the fact that people have been interested in the story and that have asked me to, tour the nation a little bit and meet people and it's a privilege, and I really look at it as a responsibility more than something for myself. To be public is not the easiest thing all of a sudden after 35 years of my life kind of running from something. And I think that the only message that I really try to send out is that there are a lot of people I know that have felt the same things that I have, and if someone can use the fact that I was a Major League Baseball player as kind of a backdrop and identify with someone who's involved in mainstream, work in the United States, and that might help them realize that, there shouldn't be limitations placed upon yourself, which basically is the way I feel about my career. I did achieve a lot to get to the big leagues, but I think I held myself back because I had so much frustration inward about my sexuality.
What do you think that you could say to a young man, for example, that's real excellent in a team sport, who's going to take that step maybe to go to play professionally?
Well, I think the most important thing is that everybody understand that coming out, there are a lot of things that happen or you're subjected to when that happens. And if your career or your profession is at stake, then obviously it's probably not the best decision. And I think that people who are out and open need to have some sympathy and understand, or some compassion is a better word, and letting people kind of let their lives develop. The most important thing is that gay and lesbian youth, heterosexual youth, whatever, have the self-confidence to achieve what they're capable of and not feel less of a person by, long ago year-old stereotypes about gay and lesbian, if you're
right,
or racial diversity or whatever. So it's a message that everyone should be able to relate to.
Can you tell me how your life has changed now, after you've
Right.
made that public
A
step?
lot. It really has. And I would say that mostly understanding the fact that people are going to want to know more. And it takes time. Coming out is really the beginning of a journey, not the end of one. And I've learned a lot about myself in the last year, and I've learned there's a lot of healing that needs to take place when you have relationships with your family, with your closest friends that have been kind of based on deceit for a long time because you're afraid to tell the truth, and wanting those to remain intact and maybe even develop further because they know more about you. But for myself, I think it's just coming to terms with the fact that I went through a really hard period for a long time, and that maybe me being honest about it and sharing a lot of my mistakes will help other people make better decisions on their own. And I'm hoping that the majority of the United States will see that a gay man played Major League Baseball and understand that whatever your diversity is, and this country is full of diversity, it doesn't mean that you can or cannot achieve something, or that you want something special, or you should be taken care of or separated. It's about inclusion, excuse me, and just understanding that everyone should just be based on the content of their character and nothing else.
Well, good. Thanks a lot for talking to us. It's a pleasure meeting you.
All right, nice to meet you. Let me, you said you wanted my...
Physicians or medical care that are very those left-handed. Born in Santa Ana, California, and went to college at Loyola Marymount. And one of the things exciting to me is that his first team was the Detroit Tigers, which was my hometown and my team, so very excited about that. He played for the Tigers from 1987 to 1989. Then he went to Los Angeles, to the Dodgers, and the last 3 years of his career were the San Diego Padres, 1993, 1995. Now there's a lot of, there was a very interesting, very intimate article in The Advocate that I read. I think a lot of other people probably have had a chance to read it, and we can't wait to hear, to hear your story.
Making it to the big leagues was a dream come true for me, and one of the things that I think makes baseball a little bit different from other sports is that so many people can identify with it. It's been a part of, the whole American tradition and foundation of father to son, and a lot of people say, "I wish I could have been a baseball player." You don't really see people say, "I wish I could have been a defensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons," or a power forward or something, because it's sports like football and basketball seem to be specific to size and strength, but baseball seems to be kind of like every man's sport. And one of the things about it is the amount of time that it takes to refine your game to get to the major leagues. Starting in Little League, in school, junior high, high school, summer leagues, you would be amazed at how many games some of these players have played in their lives, and that I played to try to improve, to get the best out of their ability. And then once you do arrive at the major leagues, you're set with a whole nother dynamic, and that is to try to win over the players to be accepted or embraced by your colleagues. It's no different than any business that each and every one of you guys are. The CEO doesn't look at the entry-level employee as an equal, and probably wouldn't for 25 years. And it's exactly that way. Just because you make it to the big leagues doesn't mean you're a big leaguer in the eyes of the guys who have persevered and been consistent performers for a long time. But one of the ways that you do get into that kind of good old boys club is by hitting your first big league home run. And for me, that memory is a strong and vivid day in my life, and I think it exemplifies a lot of the things that I went through during my career. We were playing a day game, and we were playing against the Philadelphia Phillies, and I hit a home run over the right field fence off Larry Anderson, who was a very successful pitcher. And for me, a player who kind of against all odds made it to the big leagues, nobody had any idea that I would, kind of an overachiever. It truly was the happiest single moment of my life. I was very young, but it made me feel like I accomplished something that you can't buy, that I'd worked so hard for years in ball and things like that. And even the players, they come up and they pat you on the back and they say, Babe Ruth couldn't have done it any better. And for 1 minute or 30 seconds, you're the best player in baseball, until the next guy walks up and the game moves along. But for that few seconds that you're around the bases, it really is a culmination of a dream. And on that day, we were playing a home game, and I was playing for the Padres, and we ended up winning the game, which was great because in a professional major league clubhouse, if you win, music's on, guys are happy and everything. If you lose, it's quiet, very subdued. So we're all in the shower, and everybody's patting me on the back and saying congratulations. They all remember that moment, no matter if you played for 20 years or it's your first day in the big leagues. Everyone was getting showered and ready to go home to their families. And at that time, my family was unlike most of the families on the team. My family consisted of my partner at the time, a man named Sam. Now, when you play baseball want to know what your family's like, what your life is like, where you live, how big is your house, what kind of cars you have. So in my situation, Sam could not come to the games. We kind of worked out a little thing where he would listen to the game on the radio, and we had kind of developed into this secretive lifestyle that I had not shared with anyone, not my family, not any friends, not any strangers. So he heard the home run over the radio, and he knew how happy I was going to be. And he was just as happy for me. I couldn't wait to get home and share it with somebody that I loved and would really, really be happy for my accomplishment instead of just, give me a congratulatory pat on the back. So I come in the house. He had, at that time, he wanted to do something to help us celebrate. So he cooked a wonderful dinner and had the house all set up. The table was ready for just the two of us. And I walked in the door and I ran over. We gave each other a huge hug, and he was truly happy for me. It was one of those moments where in a family you share where there's no competitive nature, and it was a happy moment for the two of us. And he wanted me to relay the whole scenario and how it played out and what did the guys say and is the manager happy and all that stuff. And just as we sat down, we started to share a glass of champagne. I hear a knock on the door. And normally when you hear a knock on your door, it's not a big deal, but when you are a Major League Baseball player living in the closet with a secret partner, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up and your heart start to rise into your throat. And I always knew who was coming over, when, and how the house had to look, and if I would be alone or whatever. And this was an unplanned visitor. I had no idea who was coming over. I think because of the emotion that I had, I kind of dropped my guard. My door was closed, and I just told Sam, for a second, be quiet, let's see who it is. And there was 3 guys on my team outside, and they were pounding on the door, and they're like, we want to get drunk, but Babe Ruth, open the fucking door, just out of control, oh my God, here they are, And my first instinct was to push Sam out the back door, and I told him, go outside, just sit in the car and wait for me. See if I can get rid of him. Well, 3 hours later, after a case of beer and 100 failed opportunities or things that I could think of to get them out of the house, they finally said, and I persuaded them that I was not going out to some stripper bar to celebrate anymore. They finally left. We had a game tomorrow, and it was a compassionate moment in a major league professional environment. That's how they wanted to share my successful moment with me. But as I walked them out, I watched them drive away, and I turned around, and it was pitch dark, and I walked over towards Sam's car, and I was a broken man. I had failed really the most important person in my life, and on what should have been the happiest day of my life turned out to be one of the bitterest days of my life, and the days I felt as low about myself as I ever had, just looking at him in his eyes and knowing that I had put him so far down at the end of the totem pole. It was a devastating moment, and it's a moment that I'll never ever forget. And when I try to explain to people what is it like to live in a public professional environment where every move you make, even for an obscure scrub left-handed hitting backup outfielder, you take that moment and you multiply it by 10 years. And for me, it just, there's never going to be a day where I can say I had a reason to do that and rationalize it with someone who was my intimate family. A couple weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C. at the National Dinner for the Human Rights Campaign. And I got a phone call in my hotel from HBO, and they are doing a special that's coming out on December 21st about the impact of sexuality in sports, professional sports and college sports. It's not specific to gay and lesbian issues, but I was very proud that they thought that my experience had an impact that they felt would be important enough to put in. So I agreed to do the interview, and one of the questions that they asked me was about a man that many of you probably might have heard of named Dave Copay, who was a professional football player who came out about 23, 24 years ago. And the question was very simple, and it was basically saying, how do you relate his experience at that time with mine now? And for me, and I had a chance to meet Dave about 6 months ago, and it was, I didn't know how to, or what to expect by meeting him, but he was very emotional when he met me, and I think he felt a bond, even though we had never said hello before. But the way I answered the question was that in 1977, when he decided to come out, he felt that there would be open arms waiting to embrace him, to catch him from this revelation and make him feel comfortable. And there wasn't. And for me, when I was doing a simple little story about a restaurant in Miami Beach, where I said yes to a question about my private life that I had not planned on answering, I had no expectation that there would be anyone out there for me to understand me, I was as far away from gay and lesbian organizations as you could possibly be. And it wasn't out of anything other than just that was the direction I had followed my whole life. And I think that for me, and after 35 years of hiding the most personal part of my life, and the revelation that I'm out, and all this huge interest that I never, ever, ever could have expected. What I believe happened to me was it was a huge challenge. Basically, was thrust upon my life, and that challenge was: do I stop talking? Do I share, my life or the mistakes that I might have made, or do I do what's right? And that is answer the questions. And if people are interested, do I tell the truth? And sometimes telling the truth about what we've done, and I'm sure that many of you can relate to this, and it's not an effort to do malice upon somebody, but sometimes when you have to keep a lie alive, you got to do some bad things. And like I said, I never ever expected any attention to be drawn towards me, but I think the opportunity to make a difference, to connect, just a few minutes ago, to walk through a room, and it's not easy to walk up to a stranger and shake hands, but every once in a while someone will actually say, you've made an impact, or my brother knows you, read your story, and then you realize that, and I have learned over the past year that every one of our actions matters. Whether you think so or not. If you think only if you do something bad people notice, or if you do something good, that the people do notice. What we do is watched by everybody, even if it's in your office of 2 people, or the person that you go buy groceries from, or if you live a very public life and you're a TV personality, or whatever, or if you're John Rocker and you pitch for the Atlanta Braves and all of a sudden you're a public figure at 25, where a year ago nobody cared who you were, and you go on a hunting trip and you start to talk candidly to some reporter who's got deeper intention that he didn't tell him about, or you're Allen Iverson and you want to connect with your community and you want to perpetuate the whole the rap music industry, and people realize that you're going to be held accountable for what you say. And I think that as gay and lesbian businessmen, mothers, fathers, brothers, whatever, sometimes people forget that you are watched, and what you do, people watch you, they learn from you, they judge you. And for us, you're going to be held to a higher standard. And if that standard means to being asked to talk to people, or to meet people, or shake hands, then who am I, who are you to not make that contribution? When my story first came out, and that was it's been a year now, and I told my partner, I think that's enough. You know, I hadn't planned on it. I didn't want it to happen. I was afraid of, you know, I have this whole life of 35 years, 20 years of being around, organized baseball and all these friends, and all of a sudden I'm a big liar to them, you know. And I told Ephraim, I'm ashamed of a lot of the things that had happened. You know, my marriage, the whole episode that I had with my partner Sam, I watched him pass away in an emergency room, and I had a 1 o'clock baseball game that day, and I went straight to the park and played. And I lived with that guy for 3 years, and after 10 years of holding your emotions down and not valuing your love as opposed to how you value the love of your friends and your companions, your neighbors, whoever, I just didn't think I wanted to talk about it anymore. You know, and the fact that I walked away from baseball at 31 years old after that struggle to get there, there was such a sense of frustration in me that I felt that the only way I could ever have love in my life was to leave the thing that I worked the hardest for and loved the most, which was my baseball career. And not having an opportunity or taking the opportunity to ask for help, to talk to somebody, I truly felt like one of the things my stepfather used to always say, former Marine, the toughest guy you've ever seen in your life, or thinks he is or wants to be, was that a secret is something that only one person knows. So for me, I couldn't pick the day or the time or the person to share the most important, fact about me. I told, my roommate was named Brad Osmus, who's the starting catcher for the Detroit Tigers now, and we lived together for 2 years with the Padres, and when I saw him last March, before the season, he goes, I can't believe you didn't tell me, and I looked at him and I said, listen, I couldn't put that burden on you, and I couldn't live with the fact that, you're married, you're going to talk to your wife, and she's going to talk to, the other wives on the team, and it took the responsibility and throw, your whole life, your whole career in someone's hands. But then I realized, after talking with Ephraim, after realizing that there are people out there who, I don't have to be Michael Jordan or, the quarterback of the St. Louis Rams or Steve Garvey to make an impact on someone's life. And I don't think, maybe my destiny wasn't to be an all-star baseball player for 20 years. Maybe my destiny was to just try to make a difference in someone's life, and maybe if it's only one life, or maybe it's a lot of people's lives, or just to raise that bar of awareness just a little bit to make the people behind us, our lives a little bit better, or a little bit easier, or not so directed into a specific path. A couple Wednesdays ago was National Coming Out Day, and I was fortunate enough to be asked to speak at the University of Pennsylvania Ivy League School in Philadelphia. And I remember, I used to say, I remember watching all of this gay and lesbian awareness, unfold on CNN and TV over the course of the years. I used to be, just totally engrossed in every Oprah Winfrey episode and change it as soon as my roommate would come in, just because it is a part of your life, but you don't want to share it, And I used to say, why is it so important to tell anybody? Who cares what I do in my private life or you do in your private life? Or it's really nobody's business. But I don't think, and being around it a little bit more, I've started to realize that it's not about pointing fingers and outing people and gossip and ruining someone's home. I think it's just about the challenge of making the first impression in someone's life. I have come to find out in my family that there was a couple, my mother's cousin and his son are gay, and we in the same family. None of us knew it about each other. And I did some tough things. I got married and spent 9 years with my ex-wife, and they were hard. It was a hard time, but I did it because I felt like I had to erase the real side of me and make sure everybody thought I was what they wanted me to be. And I don't know, who was your first impression, or if that had an impact on you, or you had paved all of your own roads before you. And I remember the first day in my life where the idea of a gay man, and that possibly being me, I was on my couch holding hands with my fiance at the time, and it was Rock Hudson dying on the news with Elizabeth Taylor, honest to God. And the whole idea, and I couldn't really see myself in that man. He's a famous actor forever, and the poor soul, he was at age 20 years in the last year of his life, and that wasn't an image. That image was not strong enough, except out of compassion and sadness, for me to see myself. And maybe if I would have seen someone, or some of you would have seen somebody, you wouldn't have had to do some of the hard things that you did. Maybe I wouldn't have got married. Maybe I would have saved myself the pain of a divorce, which for any of you who have experienced it is as close to experiencing death as I think there is. It's a very, very hard thing to go through. Over the last couple months, I've been able to, the ball has started rolling. People have asked me to do a few more things as far as getting out. I've been campaigning for the Democratic Party, and I've really, really been amazed at the courage of the youth. Kind of, it's hard to think of the next generation, but it's been 18, 19 years since I've been out of school, and I think about the way that these boys and girls, or young men and women, young adults, are walking proudly and understanding who they are at such a young age, and I really, really think that it comes from the examples that they are seeing. And people like President Clinton, who I know Andy Tobias spoke to your group a while back, and if you've read his book, Best Little Boy in the World Grows Up, his exact words were that President Clinton has done more for gay and lesbian people than anyone in the history of the world. If you think about it, we were very, very fortunate last weekend at the Seattle HRC dinner. He came to the dinner and spoke to our group amidst all of the chaos in the Middle East and the election concerns and all these things. He walked in, and for me, it really was a moment that kind of pushed me over that threshold of saying, wow, the president respects me enough, or a group of people that I'm associated with enough, to stop and speak to us. I mean, if you think about what the president's life is like, whether you are like him or dislike him, but the president office itself, he has a tenth of a second to make a decision, and usually, in that tenth of a second, he respected a gay and lesbian organization enough to make a stop. And I think that shows what kind of impact somebody can have, how that can make a young kid feel, or just the impact of him walking into that room and what it means. There's other people. Elizabeth Birch, who heads the HRC, is an amazing person. And those are public figures, but it's every person. It's anonymous daily lives. Those people, a teacher, has the most impact on people and can really make a difference. And I think that the only reference, the frustration you had growing up, to see, what that difference could mean, to not feel afraid, to not separate from your family for 5 or 6 years and spend Christmas alone, or to lie about the person you love. I think we should all embrace that opportunity. And being out gives those people that are watching you a chance to identify with your success, your choices, and also in line with that, I think it's important that people who cannot do that in their work, and I'm very sensitive to that, being a baseball player, and I know there's more people who play professional sports who are like most of us in this room, but a lot of us have professional fears and have worked very, very hard, and it's not easy. It's not easy to do. And I think the ones who can do it, who have the courage, who found a way to realize their dreams and goals, and can have a major, major impact. I see a lot of success in this room, and to come to Atlanta today and to see such a great mixture of people and a lot of diverse interests and people planning for the future. I just think it's great, and to realize that everyone in this room affects so many other people, and to embrace that opportunity. Quickly, a couple weeks ago when I was in D.C., we were there for the national dinner, and it was really, really great to see some Mr. Mfume, who heads the NAACP, spoke, Joe Lieberman spoke, and to see these people who have such presence and so much influence, to feel like we are no more or no less than a diverse part of mainstream society. It's tremendous, and it had a very big effect on me. But while we were there in the morning, I opened the newspaper, and there was a story on page 1 of the local Washington Post of a kid named Eric Plunkett, who's for me as an ex-baseball player. I don't want to see anybody feel that being a homosexual is a handicap, that they won't be able to realize their dreams. And I don't want to see any more baseball players, any more ball players walk off the field in shame and let go of that dream. I appreciate very much that you guys allowed me to speak to you, and it was great to meet you.